Hi, I'm Darren and welcome to New Factory Classics. Today we're going to break down Logan. Well, here we are at the end of our boy's journey, where Logan will meet his end. Logan is an old man now. He's a limo driver just trying to make it in the world. That is, until a bunch of thugs try and steal his hubcaps. Now he tries to shoo them off, but unfortunately for them, they shoot him right in the chest. So he goes crazy, pulls out his claws, and starts killing them. It's an absolutely gory way to start his swan song. It's the year 2029 and the world has begun to move on from mutants. They've been hunted off and no new ones have been born since the year 2004. While off duty as a limo driver, Logan is bothered by a woman and her daughter. They need the Wolverine for their help, but he's not the Wolverine anymore. He's not an X-Men anymore. He's barely anything. Logan is very sick and also an alcoholic, both of which were impossible when his healing factor still worked well, but now, not so much. He's using all the money he has to buy stolen drugs from a hospital, but those drugs are not for him. Logan is approached by a cowboy with a metal arm, something that I imagine all Texans evolve into in the next 5 years. He calls out the former hero for not being able to be an X-Men anymore, for not being a hero anymore. But this hero may be 187 years old, but he could still stab you to death. The man just wants information about that woman, and he doesn't want any trouble. He even calls out the fact that Logan has the cue ball down south. A shocked Logan immediately heads down south to Mexico. And it turns out that the cue ball that he's been hiding is none other than an elderly Professor X. Now, Professor X is not doing very well himself. He has to be hidden in Mexico because he's having dementia, and being the most powerful telekinetic on the planet means he can be very dangerous, especially not knowing what's going on. It seems Professor X's second body has begun to break down, and instead of stealing the body of a third comatose Mexican patient, he's decided to lose all control. The drugs Logan stole are to keep the professor from having one of his episodes, where he totally loses control and starts killing everyone around him with his mind. Stephen Merchant, fresh off of killing all the Fremen and stealing the spice off of Arrakis, is the one actually taking care of the professor while Logan works. They are in a rush to give the professor the next dosage of his medicine. If they don't, he will lose control and start killing everyone within a 1-mile radius of their location. Let's take a moment to appreciate when the professor became lucid after getting his medicine. He's cussing out Logan constantly and saying a bunch of anti-albino stuff about Stephen Merchant's character. Uncle Fester over here is really a downer. He's giving Logan crap for drinking, doing drugs, fighting, and not healing. And it's obvious that Logan is dying from some sort of disease. Plus, he's really angry that Logan is trying to buy a boat to escape with the professor. This guy can't go out into the sun. The woman and the young girl track down Logan. They want to give him $50,000 to take them to Canada. It's not quite a Logan movie unless he goes to Canada at least once. He takes the job. He really needs the money and he wants to get that boat so he can help the professor escape. They need to get their life on the open ocean started as soon as possible. Logan goes to pick up the mother and daughter the next morning, but unfortunately the mother's been murdered, though she did leave her dead cell phone and $20,000. He drives back to the compound where the albino and the professor are waiting, and it turns out the little girl hid in his trunk. The cowboy followed them, but they end up knocking him out and dropping him off in the desert. I'm sure that'll end that problem. The professor is so excited for the little Mexican girl to be there. He attempts his best to speak Spanish with her. Having a child around really brings happiness to the old professor. The paramilitary group ends up showing up. They want that girl back and they're willing to kill whoever they need to get her. It's like the work is cut out for the old man, the paralyzed man, the albino, and the small 8-year-old girl. But Laura isn't just any normal girl. She's got claws just like Logan, even claws in her feet, and she ends up starting to cut up all those men. The albino may have been kidnapped, but Logan and Laura make quick work of all those military men. She even has a healing factor, just like Logan. Logan, Laura, and the professor make their escape in the broken down limo. It's just 3 mutants on the open road. They find a video on the woman's phone, and it turns out that Laura is a DNA experiment from a hidden facility in Mexico. The group kidnaps homeless Mexican girls and forces them to give birth to mutants. The company is making an army of military mutants. Now that all other mutants have stopped being born, they will have complete advantage in warfare. And their shining example of creation is Laura, a mutant with healing powers that has adamantite put into her body. She's a clone of James Howitt, aka Logan. But then, the military group decided to make an even better mutant called X-24, a combination of Laura's genes, Logan's genes, and even a few other mutants' genes. Well, then they have no use for all the children, and they decided that they needed to wipe out the kids. The woman, who was actually a nurse at the facility, helped all the kids escape. They're heading to Eden, a place in Canada. And so, for the 75th time in 6 movies, Logan and the Professor are heading to Canada. They need rest, they need clothing, they need a new car, and frankly, they need a plan. While Logan leaves to go find a car, Laura and the Professor watch a movie, specifically Shane, about a man that comes to town, saves the town, and dies while riding off into the sunset. I wonder who that's a parallel for. Logan gets a car, but it needs a few hours to get new tires, so while he waits in a bar, he reads a comic that he found in Laura's backpack. It turns out Eden is a fake place that was in one of the X-Men comics that released in the last 20 years. He realizes that they're going to a fake place that doesn't actually exist. As an avid reader of the Watchmen series, I was shocked to find out that Nixon had not been president 6 times myself. The paramilitary group shows up to one of the hotels, and they are about to kill Professor X until he has one of his attacks, and he ends up almost killing anyone in a 1-mile radius. Logan and Laura, who both have healing abilities, fight their way through all the pain and end up killing all the men and even saving the Professor from his attack. I guess it's true, like one of the paramilitary men said, the Professor really is a weapon of mass destruction, but unlike the WMDs of the early 2000s, the Professor actually exists. It is revealed that the Professor had a similar attack in New York about a year ago. He ended up injuring 600 humans, killing 70 of them, and actually killing 7 of the remaining X-Men that were still alive. That is one way to end your school semester early. There is a car accident on the freeway, and the group ends up helping a family retrieve their horses. They are invited to have dinner and stay the night with this family. It looks like Logan, Laura, and the Professor will have one night of peace. Charles awakes to Logan standing over the bed. He reveals that he remembers what happened a year ago and he feels horrible. But this adventure, specifically this day and dinner, has given him a little happiness, something that he hasn't had in a very long time. Logan pulls out his claws and stabs the Professor through the heart. It turns out that wasn't Logan. That was X-24, who was sent to kill the Professor, kill Logan, and kill the family so he could retrieve the girl. It looks like the Professor will not be heading to North Dakota. Somehow, the 3rd best Dakota. Logan attempts to fight X-24 to save Laura, but he is severely outmatched, and frankly he would have died if it wasn't for the farmer of the house running over X-24 and impaling him on a stick. Logan saves Laura, puts the Professor in the bed of his truck, and they flee before they can be caught. Logan buries Professor X, his mentor, his father, his friend. And while he feels alone, his daughter Laura grabs his hand. Logan is not alone. Logan passes out from grief and blood loss, but while he's passed out, Laura steals a truck and ends up driving them north towards North Dakota. And they better get moving because X-24 has been revived, and X-24, the paramilitary group, and even the cowboy are all coming after them. Logan is not doing too well. He lost the Professor, he's sick, he's a drunk, he has no desire to go on. But Laura begins talking to him. Up until this point, she's been mute, but she knows a little English and a lot of Spanish. She just has had no desire to speak to him thus far. She lets him know that the Professor told her not to let Logan give up. He had given up on life, but she couldn't give up on him. She must push him forward. And thus, they continue their journey to go meet all the other kids at the border of North Dakota and Canada. They end up making it to the group where the kids are waiting for them. All the other kids that had escaped were waiting for Logan and Laura. They had 2 more days to arrive before they all headed to Canada. Logan passes out, but the kids do their best to mend him. They even have some experimental medicine that they stole from the paramilitary group before they escaped. Specifically, they actually have a rage medicine that was designed both for him, Laura, and X-24. It increases their healing power and makes them super strong, but only lasts for a brief moment. Logan wakes up and has a heart-to-heart with Laura. He lets her know that he can't go with her on the journey to Canada. He's going to head back to the U.S. but he wants her to know that she is not a monster. She should not become the monster that they designed her to be. She needs to live her own life and find her own happiness. Laura is mad that he won't come with them. He may have given up on life, but she hasn't given up on him. But he turns his back on her and goes to sleep. The next morning, he wakes up to find all the kids gone. They have started their 8-mile hike to Canada. Unfortunately for them, Logan sees that X-24 and all the military group are on their way to hunt them down before they cross the border. Logan must save the children. Logan must save his daughter. Logan can barely breathe. He is hurt. He is bleeding out. He's not going to make it in time. So he ends up injecting the rest of that bottle of that experimental medicine. It infuriates him with rage, and he speeds through, starting to gut any man in his way, decapitating, cutting off arms, stabbing people through head. Nothing will stop him from getting to his daughter and saving those children. A methed out Logan makes it to his daughter, and they go back to back and start fighting their way through all these men. They end up killing like 20 or 30 men in a matter of a minute or two. They are eventually cornered, and the doctor walks out. He reveals that he is Stryker's son. Yes, a Stryker is the villain again in a Logan movie. Stryker Jr. reveals that mutants didn't actually disappear. He's just been putting a poison in the water that causes them not to be born. Kind of like when they put fluoride in our water, but instead of stopping tooth decay, this one kills babies. Logan shoots the doctor and ends up trying to fight the cowboy, but the cowboy releases X-24. It's time for Logan to fight a much healthier, younger, and stronger version of himself, and he's not doing too hot. Logan does what he can to fight X-24, but he ends up losing. X-24 grabs him, lifts him up, and impales him through the chest on a tree. And right before X-24 can kill Logan, Laura appears with a gun and shoots him through the head with an adamantite bullet, saving her father. Logan is bleeding out. He is dying. He holds the hand of his daughter one last time and reminds her not to be a killing machine and to live the life that she wants to live. She looks him in the eye and calls him Daddy. James Logan, the Wolverine Howlett, has passed away. He is buried in a shallow grave on the border between the United States and Canada, the two countries that he traveled back and forth through all these hundreds of years. Laura takes the cross that sits at his grave and moves it to the side, making it into an X. For the final X-Man has died. And now I have seen it, so you don't have to. Please like, subscribe, and share. Thank you.